Hi year ones, it's time for lesson 2 now. So we looked a little bit yesterday at the weather and we should still be looking at that. But today we're going to look at African villages. We know a lot about our town and where we live, but do we know what a town or a village in Africa would actually look like? We're going to learn a little bit about urban and rural and what that means, and also what things might we see in a village. So would we see human features like shops and schools, or would we see physical features like mountains and rivers? What would we see if we lived in Africa? So now take a look at the little bit of learning now. Most of it is about research, so finding out this information, but a little bit will be about how to make our map after. Thank you. So here's a little bit of information about Kenya. Kenya is located in East Africa, which lies on the equator. Kenya is officially called the Republic of Kenya, and this is its flag. The capital of Kenya is Nairobi, which we know a little bit more about from yesterday's weather chart. Nairobi is the biggest city in Kenya, and its name means cool water in the Maasai language. The Nairobi River flows through the city. The sunniest time of year is from December to March, and the coolest months are June and July. There are only 2 seasons, wet and dry, because Nairobi is so near the equator. That's interesting. The second biggest city in Kenya is Mombasa. It is a seaport city that was first built around the year 900 AD. Kenya is famous for its savanna habitat, but it also has many different landscapes, such as deserts, swamps, mountains, and forests. Mount Kenya is the highest mountain in Kenya at 5,199 metres high. Most Kenyans live in the highlands. Nairobi is 1,700 metres above sea level. Kenya's longest river is the Tana, which runs for 1,000 kilometres. Kenya shares Lake Victoria, the world's second largest freshwater lake, with Tanzania and Uganda. The Great Rift Valley, a 6,400 kilometre tear in the Earth's crust, can be found west of Nairobi. Within this valley are the green waters of the famous Lake Turkana. Millions of tourists visit Kenya each year to see the savannah, the wildlife, the nature reserves, and to go on a safari. And Kenya has more than 50 animal reserves to protect its beautiful wildlife. You know a lot about this now, but the big 5 animals of Africa can be found in Kenya, mostly in the Masai Mara National Reserve in particular. The lion, the leopard, the buffalo, the rhinoceros, and the elephant. In rural Kenya, and rural is a word we're going to be learning about today, most people work in agriculture, and agriculture is another word for farming. Agriculture is important to Kenya's economy, especially exporting tea, coffee and flowers. In the cities, most of the people work in businesses, shops or factories. The Maasai tribe are a group of people who live close to the national parks and nature reserves in Kenya. They follow a traditional way of life. They move from place to place and look after their cattle and families. Do you know what cattle are? School is free for all children in Kenya. In some rural areas, and there's that word rural again, children, especially girls, may not attend school because they are expected to help out at home. What would you do if you couldn't go to school? And here is where we learn about urban and rural. The top picture here shows an urban place, a place that is built up, it has lots of people, and it has lots of buildings. Below is a rural area, and we're taking a look at that today. It's outside of a town or city, more like a village, where fewer people live, and it's surrounded by different landscapes, and there is not as many buildings. Now, things we might want to take a look at when we're thinking about what is it like in Africa are human features and physical features. So here's just a few to get you going. Human features would be things like a factory, a farm, a house, and a shop. And you may know of where these places are. Now, these places have been built by humans. Physical features have not. These are things like the beach, the forest, a mountain, and a river. Today's activity is to research African villages. What would a rural, and remember that word, rural African village look like? What human features might you see there? And what physical features would you see? Would you see a cinema in a rural African village? After researching myself, here's a few things that I found out. Kenyan homes. Now, the huts are usually round with a peak roof. They're usually made of natural resources, such as grass, leaves, and mud brick walls. As we know, the farms are a big source of income for Kenyan villagers. So farming is one of the main ways they are able to make money or grow food for themselves. Even though farming in Africa can be pretty difficult at times due to the dry land, the produce of tea, coffee and grain is all for themselves and the rest of the world. Shops. Now, shops are usually outside the villages or along the roadside where people would pass them. These shops have important and luxury items in them, and usually a shop will sell a little bit of everything. Schools. Schools would not be in the rural villages, and children can walk up to an hour sometimes just to get to school. Can you imagine walking 1 hour to get to school? Many charities help to build new schools to make them better and safer and stronger buildings. If you want to know more about the physical features of a rural village in Africa, I recommend looking at Google Earth. And I know the year ones have looked at Google Earth many times, so I've included the link on the planning as well. But take a look, have a search around, it's quite exciting what you might see. Now it's time for you to do a bit of your own research. Now we all know staying safe on the internet is really, really important. So here we have a search engine that's suitable for children. It's called Kiddle. Now all they would need to do is if you go to www.kiddle.co, it will bring up this image, what you can see here. Once you've got this, you can type in Kenyan villages, rural Kenyan villages, and then you can click on images and you know they're going to be safe for your children to see. Now what I would recommend is that the adult stays with the child for the time that you're researching. And once you've got all the information that you need, the children can go off and make the map on their own. Here I've added a cover of a book, as you may have some good informational maps book that tell you things about the way they live in Africa. Right, so for today's activity, we're going to use all the information that we found out about Kenyan villages to create our own map of what a traditional or rural African village would look like. So I'm going to begin mine with some of those physical features. So I'm going to put on a mountain and a river first. So I'm going to put it up in the top corner as near my village. I don't want it right next to my village, but I want people to know that that's the sort of terrain that they have in Africa. And I'm going to run the river just below it. Now, another part of our map, even though we're making it look quite fun, we're not traditionally doing it from the bird's eye view, so I don't really mind how it comes out. But what I do want on today's map is I want it to be labelled. So on my mountain, I'm going to write the word mountain. Then I'm going to do river. River. Okay, I'm going to skip forward now to show you a full map, but you've got plenty of time now. You can pause the video and see what you can come up with yourself. Okay, so here's my finished map. What we've got here is what I started with, And then I've done a range of houses that I found out about. So I found out about this corrugated metal type house that they may have. Also in the traditional Kenyan villages, we've got these mud huts or houses made of wood and roofs that are woven. I've also put a farming area on my map, as traditionally they'll go out to work on the farm and then come back to their village. Further away from my village, I've got the shop and the school, as I found out that children tend to not have a school or a shop right in their village. They would have to walk quite a little way to go and visit those places. So this is my finished one. What I would end up doing now, if you can, is colouring it in, making it look like a map should look. So stay safe, everybody, and I can't wait to hear from Miss Bashford tomorrow.